Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a new update here, this time via the betting markets. And we know yesterday, really this past 4 or 5 days has been very, very hard in terms of Donald Trump's odds. The highest I saw it get consistently was around 67%. And then yesterday it really torpedoed after that Iowa poll. But it seems like Trump is starting to make up some ground, make up some lost ground that really came of those polls yesterday. He's up to around, I'd say about 57-43 is what we're looking at right now for Donald Trump's odds. And there is an easier way to see this because you look at this, you can see, well, you can kind of see how low it got. But if you click on Trump's name, this is actually what you're going to want to do. And it's better in terms of seeing the timing of all of this. So, it really for like a few days, it got up to maybe it was like a week where Trump was around 66-67%. And then it's been kind of a consistent fall that culminated last night, but we saw, this doesn't even look, oh, here it is right there. So it became stable at around, 10 o'clock this morning. Trump fell down to around 53-47, and since then, Trump's gained about 4 points. So obviously there was that crazy Iowa poll that got released. It does seem like Trump's been able to withstand that. Now, there are other betting markets that are more liberal in terms of their odds. It's just the way they bet. Predicted, I'm not sure what Predicted is right now, but it was super liberal. I am going to talk about kind of the state by state odds and really just why a lot of this makes no sense based off of the current polls that we have. Now, a lot of this comes down to the whole Iowa thing and whether or not you believe that poll, because if you believe that poll, you think Kamala Harris is getting like 400 electoral votes. Because that poll, it's ridiculous. But if you disregard that poll, like many of us are doing, you can take a look at state by state. So Wisconsin now is a slight Harris lean. A week ago, it was a slight Trump lean. I think it got to around 60-40. Now it's 52-40 or 58-42. I believe that's what it was. If we look at the graph here, Trump was around 60, and you can see the fall right here. So yeah, and this is the past month. Trump looked like he was gaining the entire month, and then just recently, and to me, we really haven't seen any crazy bad polls out of Wisconsin. I mean, maybe there were a few polls that had Harris up. There was that one crazy CNN poll, but it's nothing that's like, oh my God, Trump's really the underdog now. Maybe it's 50-50, worst case. Like the idea that it'd be 60-40 right now, based off of what we know about the polls, what happened in 2020 and 2016. If you're going to give me a 60-40, I'm going to need Harris to be winning the Real Clear Politics aggregate by at least 2 or 3 points. We're not seeing that. She's up by 0.2. That's 0.2, 0.2. She's up by nothing. And remember, these are polls that significantly underestimated Trump in 2020 and 2016. I'm not understanding why is she the favorite again in this state? And this is just the betting, that's fine. People are going to bet on her because they think she's going to win. But just in general, when you look at something like this, where is the validity to her being the favorite? Which poll are you looking at? I mean, I know maybe the Marist, but it's like when you combined all the polls together and we factor in everything that we know about Donald Trump's approval rating, about the current environment, about the voter registration shifts, about Trump being more liked than he was in 2020 or 2016, and Harris being significantly more disliked than Biden was in 2020, where are these numbers coming from? This is all fake hype. It's a fake surge. And we're starting to see Trump go back up. He's gone up 3-4 points just within the last few hours. Take a look at Michigan. Now, Michigan, I could see Michigan a little bit more in terms of maybe a slight Harris lean. I have seen a lot of people predict Trump to win, whether it's 5 or 6 out of the 7 swing states. Normally, it's always Michigan or maybe Michigan, Nevada going to Harris and then Trump taking everything else. I've seen some Republicans do that when it comes to Michigan. So Michigan's like the most liberal Rust Belt state, although it's very close. Michigan could very easily vote to the right of Wisconsin. It would surprise me a little bit, but it's not like, it's not earth shattering because the polls in Michigan are very close. So you take a look at the past month, Trump goes ahead. I mean, to be fair, Harris was up in Michigan for a pretty significant amount of time. I mean, look, she was up to around 67-33 in terms of the overall odds. And Trump kind of brought it back. Then Harris went up to around 66-67. This is late September. Then Trump brought it back and then took the lead. And now Harris has retaken the lead, and she went all the way up to around 65, and it's gone back down to 60. So she had her balloon run up to around 65-35. Now it's come back down. And I would imagine Michigan get tighter unless we get new polls, and we'll see, because the betting markets, they're just an extension of the polls. They react to the polls and they put money where the polls are. That is the main thing. And it's also more of a vibe thing. It's more of a narrative. Harris really had the narrative over the weekend where it's like she's got the surge. And so we saw with the Iowa poll, with everything coming together with CNN and Marist, And well, maybe there was a YouGov. The liberal pollsters are really thinking she's going to win, but they're not. Their hearts aren't in it like they were in 2020 or 2016. They're like, she's going to win the Rust Belt and then maybe Nevada, but she's going to lose everything else. I'll be honest, there are some really weird polls because I'll see polls where Trump's up in Arizona by like 4, and then another poll Trump's down in Arizona by 1. But I think Trump's going to win Arizona. I'm just saying how weird it is with a lot of these polls. There is at least some consensus, in my opinion, about Arizona and Georgia. And Arizona's still 75-25. I think it probably should be 80-20, but that's pretty good. That's, that's a heavy favorite. This one I really can't understand. It's Georgia. And we got Trump up to around 74-75. You see this recent drop. I haven't seen a single poll that would signal Donald Trump is going to lose Georgia. So I'm really not understanding. But listen, it's betting. It is what it is. But I'm just telling you, you're looking at this drop and the people are like, well, what happened? I mean, nothing happened. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Nothing happened. There was no poll. Go look at the Georgia polls. There was one poll today, but this happened yesterday, the Georgia drop. There was one poll today that had Harris up by 1. You look at the last 10 polls in Georgia, Trump has won 9 of them. The only one that Harris won, she was up by 1. But Trump's up at like 2.5 in terms of the aggregate in Georgia. So this drop for Trump, it's based off of media hype. I mean, I don't even know. So it's like, but it's like even this rally is so fake. Like this is based off of nothing. There's nothing substantial here. But you have to understand, this is how it is. It is what it is. You've got Iowa. We talked about Iowa. It's 80-20 right now. Obviously, we know what happened with Iowa with the poll. It brought it all the way down. Wow, Trump was all the way down to 73, and he's kind of stabilized around 80-20. My goodness. Listen, I thought they were the most accurate pollster. Why wouldn't more people put money on Harris? I don't understand. This is free money. That pollster never gets it wrong. They're telling me. Why would they not dump money onto Harris here? This is unbelievable. She's 20%. That's amazing odds. Because they know the poll is wrong. That's why. But you can see it is 80-20 right now, and we'll have to see in terms of that one. But listen, I like where things are right now in terms of these numbers and really the polls, to be honest. I mean, Pennsylvania is one we're watching. Pennsylvania at a certain Harris actually took the lead in Pennsylvania today. I don't even remember, or that was last night, and then Trump retook it. So we're going to see a lot of movement here. I mean, look at this movement. Trump was up by, he was around 63. And then a few hours later, he's at 50. So it is what it is. You're going to see movement. I do think looking at betting is, you don't want to say it's useless right now, but you see stuff like this where there are these huge swings. It's kind of like, it is what it is. Even looking at the polls at this point, it's kind of like, there's this new national poll. This is New York Post. I mean, you would think New York Post would be conservative. I know Republicans are pretty happy with this poll because the last poll was Harris +4. This is just a general popular vote. It's got Trump tied, which is a positive poll, but it doesn't necessarily surprise me coming, from the New York Post. Not to say the New York Post poll's conservative, but it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's a decent poll, we'll say that. I'm not even sure. I wonder if it gets added to Real Clear Politics. Musk saying this, talking about the firewall, the Democrat firewall. This is him saying, as of yesterday's data, Democrat versus Republican early votes are 602K worse for Democrats than in 2020 when Biden only had an 80K margin of victory. That is almost 10% of the probable electorate. 6.9 million voted in 2020. Unless something very strange happens, Dems will have a blowout loss in Pennsylvania. And so what Musk is saying here is based on the lack of firewall that the Democrats have currently in terms of the early voting, the fact that they were leading by 1.1 million and only won by 80K. Now they're up by, in terms of their firewall, they're only up by, it looks like 600K. I thought it was 480K. Oh, they must have added more. So they're around 600K. But either way, the problem with this, what Musk is saying here is he's not accounting for the different variables we're seeing. And I understand the idea of looking at early voting and it's good for Republicans. I get it. But the problem is there's going to be more day of Democrat voters because they all stayed home for, in 2020. Now there's going to be more of them going to the polls. I don't think it's going to make up for it. I agree. I think they're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. She's going there 3 times with 3 rallies. They know they're down in Pennsylvania. It's a last ditch effort. And that's why all these polls come out. It's, the Ohio poll, the Iowa poll, it's total crap. But it is important to understand, we can do this and we can say, well, it's a 500K vote difference. Where are they going to find those votes? But a lot of it is going to be more Democrats going day of because they were all told to stay home in 2020. Even perfectly healthy 25-year-old kids stayed home and did the mail-in vote. But I don't think it's going to make up for it. Trust me, I don't. It's hard to fully have this type of confidence that Elon Musk has where he's like, it's over because of the early voting. There are different variables that go into it that you have to account for. It's not simply, well, I mean, my goodness, look how crazy this is, and the exact same amount of people are voting in 2020 that voted in 2024. No, there's different variables. There's going to be more Republicans doing the early voting in 2024, but technically, Pennsylvania is a little bit different just in terms of Democrats normally outweighing Republicans in terms of the early voting. So we'll have to see what happens in Pennsylvania. But I do think the early vote numbers look good. It's just a matter of turnout day of, and that's just going to be the reality when it comes to that. So overall, that's pretty much just what I wanted to talk about. The current map, Trump up by give or take around 12 points right now. We're seeing big movements and big swings right now when it comes to these states. Nevada's gone a little bit down for Trump. That doesn't necessarily surprise me. When he was at 63, 64, that was a little rich there. But you can see what this is coming down to. It's coming down to the Rust Belt. Trump looks very good in Arizona. He looks very good in Georgia. He looks very good in North Carolina. And those states aren't totally locks, but you're looking at the Rust Belt, and these states are very iffy either way, with Harris slightly leading in Wisconsin and Michigan, Trump up in Pennsylvania. The popular vote has swung heavily to Harris, which I think this is mainly based off of what Americans normally expect when it comes to these elections. The Democrat in recent history has always won the popular vote. When it comes to actual polls based on the popular vote, I don't understand this swing, honestly. I think this is just more narrative based. Like, it's like, have we seen real, like, crazy polls? I mean, maybe did the CNN poll have Harris? I don't even think the CNN poll had Harris up in terms of the popular vote, but I haven't seen any crazy polls that would suggest Harris is going to blow Trump out in terms of the popular vote. That would like, I'm not sure why this is so heavily in Harris's favor here recently. I think it's mainly just based off of the fake hype, as well as the narrative that Republicans can't win the popular vote. So that's mainly what it is. But right now, I think Trump is still up by 0.3 in terms of just the average on Real Clear Politics. That's not me saying he's going to win the popular vote, but it's going to be very close either way. And if it's very close, it's very good news for Trump. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.